we are actually heading towards the dystopian technological future that we've all been warned about for many, many years in various works of fiction and science fiction, right? We're heading towards it. There's currently a new product out that is being advertised a lot on Australian TV, even on YouTube. I'm getting ads for this product, and fascinating product. It's the new Google Pixel phone. Now, my first thoughts on the new Google Pixel phone is, and obviously this isn't sponsored because I don't sell out my beliefs for money, and I never would promote this, but my first thought on anyone who has a Google Pixel phone, or essentially anyone who has an Android, why do you have an Android? I mean, come on. Just get an iPhone, catch up with the rest of the world. If you are watching this or listening to this podcast right now and you own an Android, take a good look at yourself. Why on earth would anyone ever own an Android? Do you know how simple everything is to do on Apple? And believe me, growing up until about 5-6 years ago, I was like a hardcore PC Android guy. I would never use a Mac. I would never use an iPhone. I had a Samsung Galaxy. I had a HP laptop. And you know what? Started working in the real world. Everyone was on Apple, and I realized, Apple just is better. Why would you have an Android? I love people who show me their who hand me their Android phone, and I'm just like, what do I do? What I don't even understand what this is. I can't figure out what I'm doing with this phone. Is this a phone? I don't know. Like, it's remarkable to me that anyone could make the conscious, voluntary decision to purchase an Android phone and have one. Have you ever heard of AirDrop? Do you know how easy AirDrop is to transfer files across? Just use an iPhone. Just get an iPhone, put your pride aside, and just get an iPhone. Anyone who has an Android phone, and here's the other thing, particularly in the dating sphere. Girls, if I'm texting you and I see a green bubble come up in my iPhone messages, I'm instantly turned off. If you're a green bubble texter, which means you're not on iMessage, which in turn means you're not on Apple iPhone, I'm instantly turned off. Get an iPhone, guys. That's not the point of this, but get an iPhone. Use Apple. Non-sponsored, but I am open to collaborating with Apple because their products are amazing. Don't use an Android. It's literally Android. Literally the name itself is the giveaway that you don't want it. How many times have you heard of a good Android? You know? It's just I don't know why people get Android phones, but whatever. Let's just continue. The new Google Pixel phone, whatever that is, I don't care. There's a new feature on it, and it's being heavily advertised, this feature particularly. And I genuinely don't think people realize how damaging and like profoundly game-changing this feature is. It's a good feature, admittedly, for an Android phone, but I don't think people realize how dangerous this feature really is. So I'm just going to play the ad, and then I'm going to probably spiel on this for the next little while. Ready?
One of my favorite things on the Google Pixel is called the Magic Eraser.
All you do is outline what you don't want in the picture, poof, and it's gone.
I've gotten rid of shadows, construction sign,
garbage on the ground, people, ex-lovers,
Dog poop.
You just circle them or colour them in.
They're gone.
Don't ask me how it works. It just does, and that's all I know.
I'm Bowser.
I'm Elijah.
I'm Danica, and I have a Google Pixel.
Yeah, so to those people in that ad, don't sound so proud about it, for one. But two, I don't think we're thinking about the implications of this technology. So as you heard, you take a photo, say there's someone in the background of the photo, literally you circle them and they disappear from the photo, and the Google Pixel phone fills the photo as if that person wasn't there. I don't know how it does it. Technological advancements, we've come very far. It's really cool, and I get why it's a selling point. Make your photos look great. Take a touristy photo in front of, I don't know, the Eiffel Tower, get rid of all the other people, get rid of any cars or whatever it is, right? I get that. But let's just sit and think about this for one moment, because this to me is where we're going from sci-fi dystopias being a fictional thing to now we're genuinely heading to it being a reality. Now, I don't mean to be that guy I don't mean to be that white guy on a podcast who starts talking about 1984 by George Orwell, but in that book, if you haven't read it, it's a great, you have to read it. It's a seminal work. In that book, they literally would rewrite the history every day. They would just change everything. The government would literally rewrite everything that happened and, control the narrative and everything like that. Now, think about this. If we're heading to a world in which anyone, literally anybody, can make something disappear from a photo and make the photo look authentic at the palm of their hands. Thankfully, iPhone doesn't seem to have this technology yet, but Google certainly does. What are the implications of that for multiple things, particularly in a legal sense, but in other things as well? Unless there's a very clear way to determine, maybe the file format changes, but if there's a very clear way to determine that photo has been edited, it's actually really concerning. Because now, think of a lot of modern cases, for example, the Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew thing. A lot of the ways that they're kind of cornering Prince Andrew and basically saying, we know you did this, is because there's photographic evidence of him with these women who are accusing him of doing these things. There's evidence that they met, he's with them, there's photos of them. But what if we're getting to this point where anyone can just erase someone from a photo, erase anything from a photo, delete something from a photo? Suddenly, as far as I can see, the entire legal system comes into some jeopardy here. Because now we're moving towards a society in which it's actually starting to become almost impossible to determine what is what's real and what isn't. And I think it's a really interesting thought discussion because, here's an example I thought of that I just found kind of fascinating. This isn't really related to technology, but just as a case study, I don't know all the details of this, I've just read about it. So there was this guy in America who was basically charged with murder. I think he was charged with murder and he proclaimed he was innocent. He said, I didn't do this. And he didn't really have any all the evidence kind of pointed to it being him, but he maintained that he was innocent and he didn't have any proof that it wasn't him. And he had an alibi. His alibi was that he was actually at a baseball game that day. So he couldn't have done it because he was literally at the baseball game, but he couldn't prove that he was there or whatever. Now, here's where it gets interesting, and this is what I mean. Conveniently, the TV show Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David was shooting an episode at that exact baseball game. So he went to and he remembered that and went to the producers of the show and said, hey, can I just see all the footage you shot that day? Because I remember walking behind the camera. And if there is footage of me behind that camera or in front of that camera in the background of a shot of this TV show, then I will not go to jail for murder and I will prove that I'm innocent. And he went through it all and the lawyers found him in the background of a shot in Curb Your Enthusiasm, which essentially proved that he could not have murdered this person because he was literally not there. He was at a baseball game. So these kinds of things, like documents and photos and videos and stuff, they're evidence of a reality. But suddenly if we're in this world where anyone can just erase things from reality and delete the original and be like, no, that person was never there, it was just these people, and just circle someone out, that person was never there. It's pretty creepy. It's pretty interesting to think about. And I think there's so many other things, even in this podcast, if you listen to the audio version of this podcast, if you watch the video, because the video's a bit harder to edit, there's a few things in the audio, transitional things that you don't hear. But every audio episode I for the last few weeks, I've been putting celebrity endorsements from the show in the middle of the pod. I've had Donald Trump, I've had Alan Rickman, I've had Tobey Maguire, and like obviously the way I do that is there's people now developing AI celebrity voices. So you type something in, you can get to varying levels of success an AI celebrity voice saying what you want. So I get all these celebrities to say, I love Radio Mike's podcast, right? And it's fun. And you can sort of tell at this point that they're AI generated, but some of them are pretty good. The thing is, when that technology gets better and suddenly anyone can kind of make anyone say anything just through text-to-speech AI generation, that also starts sounding a lot of alarms in my mind as to what that means for the future. Now there's also deepfakes where visually you can make it look like someone saying something and or sound as well. And then there's also like stuff like the DALL-E mini generator where you type a prompt into an AI art generator and it tries to make that. Admittedly, it's not at the point where it could fool a human into thinking it was real, but it will probably get there. And then what are the implications of me being able to type in this person doing this thing to this other person? What are the implications of that? I just feel really like we are definitely headed into this dystopian future where, and I think it's going to make it really easy for criminals to get away with crimes, because I think now as a defense, you could very easily say, that's a doctored photo, that's a doctored video, that's doctored audio. I didn't do that. Someone has made that. It's fake. It's not me. And on the other hand, it'll become harder to prove that criminals have done things because they can doctor the evidence themselves. So I think suddenly this Google Pixel thing to me has been really alarming, because I don't like as much, like, I guess I was going to say, I don't think we should have this technology, but I guess like, well, why not? Like we should. And technology is not going to stop developing, especially if it makes life easier for people. But I really feel like there's going to be a lot of implications for this moving ahead. And we are going to start seeing, I reckon, criminal cases, court cases where there's serious debate about authenticity of photos, documents, videos, audio, and other evidence. And to me, it is somewhat concerning, because all of these tools together are showing how quickly things are changing. As I said, if you can generate a picture of anything you want, you can generate the sound of anyone talking, generate something that Donald Trump said, and someone like Donald Trump knows that these things exist, so he uses them to pretend that things are fake or he didn't say things and stuff. The ultimate defense. I didn't do it. It's technology. It's the future. I didn't do any of that. And then it's just like, as well, you know, do we end up with robots who can impersonate people? In Futurama, which, you know, as much as it's a goofy comedy show, Futurama was a really great satire of science fiction and a dystopian future. There was an episode where you could download a celebrity's personality into a robot and date them. And like, I honestly don't think that was in the year 3000 in Futurama, but I honestly don't think we're that far away. Even with virtual reality getting like further and further ahead, it's so fascinating, but so scary. So I guess the main message of this is don't buy a Google Pixel because you don't need to be deleting shit out of your photos. You don't need to delete people out of your photos. That could, like the Curb Your Enthusiasm analogy, that could save someone from going to jail. I'd really love this week, if you have any thoughts about this, if you're listening to this with thoughts, send them in. RadioMikePod@gmail.com. Tweet about the show. It's Radio Mike. Instagram, radio.mike. Like, I'd love to have a further discussion about this, because to me, it's absolutely fascinating.